The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios. If you're looking to start or upgrade your online presence, visit www.sonicwebstudios.com for all of your online needs. Sonic Web Studios specializes in custom web design, app development, social networking, search engine optimization, domain registration, email marketing, online stores, and more. Since our birth, we have been designing and developing immaculate websites and providing web solutions which are a cut above the rest. As a leading web designing enterprise, we have a team of extremely talented web designers who are well-focused and have the experience of working on multiple web developing platforms such as PHP, Magento, custom WordPress, and more. Sonic Web Studios has been helping businesses of all kinds, whether big, small, established, or startup, impress their audiences with exemplary web solutions. We don't just create beautiful and functional websites. We give you a complete online solution with the main goal of enhancing your yearly revenues. We aim to give your business the online exposure and brand acknowledgement that will help you in achieving increased conversions leading to profitable sales. Call 1-800-303-3960 or visit us online at www.sonicwebstudios.com to get started today. Mention the Mike Wagner Show and get 20% off your project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level.
Voting just isn't going to the polls on Election Day anymore. Options like early voting, mail-in voting, and ballot drop boxes are available to more voters and are growing in popularity. How to Vote, a tool created by Democracy Works, breaks down the options your state offers for casting a ballot, empowering you to decide when and where to vote. Democracy works best when we all vote, but misinformation and confusion about election procedures have resulted in low voter turnout. How to Vote, a tool created by Democracy Works, takes the guesswork out of the voting process. How to Vote is an easy-to-use and help folks from all over the country overcome many of the process barriers to voting. Democracy Works is committed to helping you vote, no matter what. Their tool, How to Vote, does just that. You can sign up for election reminders, see what's on your ballot, get step-by-step assistance requesting your mail ballot, explore your options for returning your voted mail ballot, check your voter registration status, find your polling site, and make sure you have the appropriate ID. Decide when and where you'll vote this year at howto.vote. That's howto.vote. Even though this is a presidential election, there are many more candidates on the ballot besides the president. Go to Ballot Ready for a nonpartisan guide to your entire ballot. From there, you can compare candidates based on stances on issues, biography, or endorsements, and then save your choices to use when you vote by mail or in the voting booth. You can even request your absentee ballot or make a plan to vote early on or election day. This election matters. Make sure you have a plan to vote and vote informed. And this year, with changes to polling places and vote by mail laws as a result of COVID, it's more important than ever to have a plan and vote. Local elected officials affect our lives every day. They decide who to prosecute, monitor the quality of our drinking water, and choose the leadership of our schools. 30% of voters take time to vote and then leave some part of their ballot blank. This is a missed opportunity to choose the leaders of our communities. It's okay if you're unfamiliar with some of the more local positions. We recommend hosting a ballot party. Get together with friends over Zoom, split up the research, and go through the ballots together. Go to ballotready.org and enter your address to make a plan to vote and vote informed. That's ballotready.org.
The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios. If you're looking to start or upgrade your online presence, visit www.sonicwebstudios.com for all of your online needs. Sonic Web Studios specializes in custom web design, app development, social networking, search engine optimization, domain registration, email marketing, online stores, and more. Since our birth, we have been designing and developing immaculate websites and providing web solutions which are a cut above the rest. As a leading web designing enterprise, we have a team of extremely talented web designers who are well-focused and have the experience of working on multiple web developing platforms such as PHP, Magento, custom WordPress, and more. Sonic Web Studios has been helping businesses of all kinds, whether big, small, established, or startup, impress their audiences with exemplary web solutions. We don't just create beautiful and functional websites. We give you a complete online solution with the main goal of enhancing your yearly revenues. We aim to give your business the online exposure and brand acknowledgement that will help you in achieving increased conversions leading to profitable sales. Call 1-800-303-3960 or visit us online at www.sonicwebstudios.com to get started today. Mention the Mike Wagner Show and get 20% off your project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level.
It's now time for the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, iTunes, Anchor FM, Radio Public, and the MikeWagnerShow.com. Mike brings you great guests and interesting people from all across the globe. So sit back, relax, and enjoy another great episode of the Mike Wagner Show.
Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at facebook.com/the Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, Radio Public, iTunes, Google Play, Apple, and over 25 podcast platforms. Take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Also follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here with a wonderful jazz violinist who had a really interesting journey. He was born and raised in Israel. He later went over to he grew up in Amsterdam. He later went to Israel, got ahead of myself, and he's in New York City as well, too. He's a classical violinist since 6 years old, guitarist at 13, is also a film composer and a music editor. He also, won a couple of awards. He also plays the sitar and the tabla, and also part of the American Israeli Cultural Foundation. This guy has a really unique background, and live, ladies and gentlemen, from the Plush Studios, somewhere in this earth, ladies and gentlemen, live, and you can say somewhat local, wherever you call it, jazz violinist Omer Ashano. Omer, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. So you've been a jazz violinist for quite some time. You also have a new song coming out in September, and we'll talk more about that. We'll play one of your songs at the end of an audio interview. So as you know, we have a video version, audio version. If you want to hear one of his songs, go over to the Mike Wagner Show audio version. And if you want to just enjoy casual conversation over a cup of coffee and just hear him talk about his music, well, you've got the right place, video version, at the Mike Wagner Show. So you basically also forgot to mention you always have a couple of EPs as well, too, and you just have an interesting history. Before we get into all that, tell us how I first got started.
Well, it actually started from a TV show that I used to watch as a young kid. I don't remember this myself. This is just the story my parents tell me. So basically, there was this young talent show on TV, in Israeli TV, back when I was a kid. And I saw this young violinist there, and I told my parents I want to study violin and play like this guy. And they took me to violin classes in the local music center. And for some reason, I kept doing it. I don't really know why. I don't have very much of a very strong musical background, definitely not from my parents. None of them play an instrument. But yeah, somehow I kept doing it. That's how I started violin. When I was around the age of 13, I had a kind of a crisis with the instrument, with classical music, with the classical school that, and how strict it is and tough it is. And I wanted to play a cooler instrument, which is the guitar. I wanted to play rock and roll on the guitar. So I started taking guitar classes, and that's actually how I got exposed to improvisation and blues music and jazz music. And Jimi Hendrix, who was a big idol for me back then. so I kept playing guitar, and at some point I just told myself, well, I have all this knowledge about new styles of music and about improvisation and music theory. Why not try implementing that on the violin? So that was around the age of 15 where I started translating that knowledge to the violin, and that's basically when I started playing jazz or any other non-classical style of music on the violin. Basically played all the different genres of music that I was very interested in for many years, whether it's Indian music or Celtic music, some African music, and I just basically learned by myself, listening to recordings and trying to imitate what I hear. And that's when my current path started, as I like to think.
Wow, that is an amazing journey. So that's kind of like a rare skill that you hear something, you play it back. Most people just read music. I mean, you just have one heck of a gift, I have to say. And also, there was always a mention as well, too, that, who are some of your favorite musicians growing up?
Well, as I said, Jimi Hendrix was definitely one of the important ones. I kind of had like a rock phase for a while where I guess I listened to whether Jimi Hendrix, Cream, AC/DC, Guns N' Roses. I had that phase. And then I guess kind of came along the jazz phase where I started listening more to Charlie Parker, Wes Montgomery, Miles Davis, and also the earlier ones like Louis Armstrong, and I guess those are some of the big ones. Along the way, I always listened. Oh, sorry.
Is that someone wanting to play violin for you or something, or what?
So actually, a lot of I kept listening to a lot of music that is not necessarily any of these more conventional styles. Like I always listened to African music, Celtic music, and it wasn't like specific artists that I followed. I just had all these compilation CDs. Some of them I got, some of them I just found on my dad's music library. And I was always drawn to very eclectic styles of music. Like I can't say, I had phases of different music, but I can't say like I'm a rock fan or I'm a jazz fan or I'm a classical music fan. Like I always had like 10 different genres I used to listen to simultaneously at each part of my life.
10 genres you listen to. Is country included by any chance? I was going to throw that in for you. Actually,
that came along a little later, but I did get to country bluegrass music still in my teens. I guess that was after. I think I made this route through rock music, then into folk music, and then I started finding out more and more about country music and bluegrass music, and I actually got to play plenty of country and bluegrass music in Israel.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Is this like the first of its kind in Israel, or were there people in Israel that played country music or on the violin? It sounds like you might have been the first.
Well, on the violin, yeah, there aren't actually any fiddle players in Israel, but there are a lot of people who like that music, and obviously Israeli culture is very influenced by American culture, and it's also like the United States is a very cosmopolitan place. Like we have people of many different backgrounds living in this country together, so it's also a very multicultural place. Not to mention that there's a lot of a big Jewish American community or Jewish British community living in Israel. So these guys have imported. I think did have an important part in importing country music, rock and roll music to Israel, and exposing audiences to that music over here. And there's a scene, there's like a small scene or a small community of people that play this music. They play banjo and mandolin, and they have their own like jam sessions. And there's some folk music, American folk music happening in Israel, which is surprising, I guess.
It does sound surprising. So how'd you end up in New York City?
Well, after finishing my mandatory military service, I started right away. I started studying in this special jazz program, academic jazz program, which works in collaboration with the New School in New York City. When I first started there, I wasn't sure that I'm moving to New York. I just knew that I really wanted to take part in this program, which is very like high, considered very exclusive jazz program in Israel, happening in Tel Aviv. So I guess after a year of being into the program, I kind of started aiming towards New York and seriously considering it. So after 2 years of studying in that program, there are ambassadors from the New School coming to Israel to test the Israeli students for scholarships. So basically, the decision was based on whether I'm gonna receive a scholarship big enough to make it to the New School. And I did receive scholarship big enough, which allowed me to continue my studies at the New School, and that was the beginning of my journey in New York. But to me, I mean, once I knew that I'm going to continue my studies in New York, it was obvious to me that it's not going to be just about studies. Like, I'm going to try and stay in New York and base myself in New York City and immerse myself in the local jazz scene. Try to make it in New York. Which is the capital of jazz, as we all know.
I think people in New Orleans, Chicago, and other places, I'm sure, will argue about that. And where do you see yourself?
Yeah.
And where do you see yourself 5-10 years from now?
Hopefully touring the world with my music. I hope. That was my goal, basically. Being a musician is making a living out of what I like doing the most, and I enjoy the most playing my own music and playing some other people's music, but obviously not everyone's. So hopefully, that to me, the more success I have in my career is meaning more time that I spend playing music I love with people that I love. Mm-hmm. So to me, the ideal career, at least for the near future, is touring and having a career as a performing artist with music that I enjoy. Mm-hmm. But in the future, I also hope to, part of understanding that a performance career is not as sustainable for the long run, especially if I'm playing jazz violin and not which is fringe, to say the least. So I understand that I might have to choose a different career path in the future, and hopefully I hope to get more into film scoring, which I still do a little these days. But I do hope to delve deeper into that in the future and hopefully have that as my second career.
That sounds amazing. We'll talk about your film career in just a minute, along with your recent music as well. But first, you listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking at a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention The Mike Wagner Show. Get 20% off your project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at Facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, Radio Public, iTunes, Google Play, and over 25 podcast platforms. Take The Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to The Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Also follow The Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here with jazz violinist Omer Ashano from Amsterdam to Israel to New York City here on The Mike Wagner Show. And before we get into your music, which is your new song coming out in September, also your debut EP called California Gold, you said you're a film composer and a musical editor, and you worked in a silent film, also got an award. So tell us all about that, and congratulations.
Yeah, well, that was an award, 2 awards that short film won. It's produced and directed by a couple from New York. It actually started from a collaboration where they wanted me to play on violin the music of Charlie Chaplin's films.
Oh,
so this.
Wow.
Yeah,
nice. Love Charlie Chaplin.
So the movie, the premise, the whole premise of the film was a story about the relationship of Charlie with his mother Hannah. So they wanted to create basically a short silent film in the essence of Charlie Chaplin's movies, and they wanted to have Charlie Chaplin's music on it. What happened from our meeting is that I explained to them from my little knowledge that I have in copywriting and music licensing. I just know that they cannot, even if I play the music of Charlie Chaplin's movies in the film, we would still have to pay some royalties. We would basically have to pay writer royalties. Which they try to avoid. They thought that if I will play the music, they will be able to avoid royalty payments. So I explained to them that this is not the case, and they will still have to pay 50% of the royalties, basically. And that's how we basically ended up composing the music for the whole film. There were a few tracks where I used, I basically acted as the music supervisor on the film, both as the supervisor and the composer. On a few cues, we used royalty-free music, but most of it was just composed in the essence of Charlie Chaplin's movies. And I had to dive into that culture a little more, because my knowledge on Charlie Chaplin's movies was very dull back then. So I went on to watch a few of Charlie Chaplin's movies. I listened to all the soundtracks from all the different movies and tried to kind of immerse myself in that style, in the essence of that soundtrack, and compose the whole. Basically, well, it started from 27 minutes of music, got narrowed down to 21 minutes of music that I composed and recorded. It was one hell of an adventure, and eventually the film went on to win 2 awards, which was also very exciting.
It's very exciting as well, too, and I'm sure he appreciated doing this quietly and silently, I'm sure. and of course, that movie, Hannah, Can You Hear Me, which did win the AFI World Peace Award, and I don't know if you got to watch it. What was your thought on that movie?
That it was too short, mostly. The idea is just beautiful, and the shots, and the black and white shots are really something unique to these, to our era. Like, you don't really have. I think there was a movie released a couple of years ago called The Artist, which I'm pretty sure that's the name, which was, a first black and white silent film after dozens of years that they haven't been working in this producing movies in this way. So it was a really refreshing approach to have a modern movie produced in this way. The only thing is that they try to cut it more and more so it could fit to each of the different film festivals, because they all have different requirements. Some in order to be in the short film category, in some films you have to have 25 minutes of film max. Then on some others you can have 30 minutes, and on some others you can have like 17 minutes top. So basically it started from like 30 minutes, I think, got narrowed down to 27 minutes, and then got narrowed down to 21 minutes. So I just want to see a longer version of this movie. Hopefully one day. They do have thoughts about making a full feature film, but it's still only in conception. So
and where can we find the movie at?
It's still not published publicly.
Not yet. Okay. But I'm sure it'll be out as well, too. And of course, a couple of movies that came to mind when it comes to most recent with the piano with Holly Hunter, and probably one of my favorites movies is Silent Movie with Mel Brooks. Just making fun of the silent film, in a really good way. And Marcel, the mime has the only speaking part and says, no. so if you get a chance, watch it. So
will do.
Okay, great. And also we'll talk about your new song and your album in just a minute. But first, listen to the Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnerShow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking for a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs at below the competition rate. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at Facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, Radio Public, iTunes, Google Play, and over 25 podcast platforms. Take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Also follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here with jazz violinist as well as film composer and musical editor Omer Ashano, from Amsterdam to Israel to New York City here on the Mike Wagner Show. We talked about some of his work, getting an award, and also you have an EP out, which you made your nice debut, called California Gold. You also have a song called...
I must mention that's an EP I participate in. It's not mine.
Did? Okay, I'm sorry. That was the impression I got. I thought it was yours, but you participated. I thought you had a CD out.
No, so my EP is called Alive in New York, which is also available on Spotify and all the streaming platforms. California Gold is an EP by an artist, a singer I work with, and a very good friend called Ryan Luce, which I also highly recommend to check out. But this is not my personal EP. Yes.
Oh, okay. I apologize, because I was trying to figure that as well too. So Alive in New York, and tell us more about that one.
Well, so it's basically a recording of a live show that happened in New York. It's I'm playing in this album. It was kind of like it was a live recording we did of that show. I wasn't sure if I'm going to release it, and eventually it was like it was just a moment of spontaneity. And I said I should just have something to put online. And I listened back to that recording, and I figured that it's actually, we got some good takes there. It was actually a good show. I did the mixing, the mastering myself to that album, and released it. And it actually got very good feedback, which was, it was nice because like I said, it wasn't like a full concept album, which I planned on releasing. It was something kind of spontaneous. So it was very encouraging to figure out that it has good reviews and people are liking the album, even though it wasn't it didn't have any concept or anything. It was my music, mostly my music, and 2 arrangements of famous standards, All the Things You Are and Tenderly. And yeah, I played with my quartet consisting of Juan Vidaure on guitar, a wonderful guitarist and one of my best friends I made in New York City. On the double bass, Solomon Gottfried, a guy I met in the New School, an amazing bass player. And on the drums was Roy Ben Yosef, who's a fellow Israeli friend from Jerusalem, who also studied at the New School and spent some time in New York. Yeah, hopefully I will soon get to the works of making another album, something that will be recorded in the studio and will have a more vision behind it.
And we're looking forward as well too. In the meantime, where can we find Alive in New York at?
On all streaming platforms, on YouTube as well, and on Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal. Yes, all the streaming platforms.
That is great. And you also have a new song coming out in September as well too. And tell us more about that.
Yeah. So my single Tigrinya Lullaby is actually a song I composed quite recently, just before in the International Seifert competition, which is one of the only international competitions for jazz violin happening in Poland every year. This year it happened online because of the due to the pandemic. So it was kind of a tune I composed for the competition. Like I wanted to have a new composition. I knew that I'm going in the studio with a bunch of very serious jazz cats, fellow Israelis, and I wanted to use the opportunity to record a new song and not just have another recording of my old originals. So it's quite fresh, and the main influence in that song was Eritrean Tigrinya music. So Tigrinya music is basically dance music of the Tigrinya or Tigray people, which is an ethnic group that mainly located in a region which is on the north border of Ethiopia. So basically on the border between Ethiopia and Eritrea. So you have people of that community both in Ethiopia and Eritrea. And Tigrinya music is music that is very popular from the 60s. It was very popular both in Eritrea and Ethiopia. So that's the main influence of the tune. So what I did was taking like a pentatonic melody, a major pentatonic melody, which is a very typical sound of that music and of these, obviously of African music, as some of you may know, that pentatonic scales are what dominates, is kind of the scale that dominates African music in most of the regions of Africa. So I took this basically major pentatonic scale and wrote this melody over it and added a little more sophisticated harmony around it that obviously is jazz influenced. And I think the main drive of the tune was trying to adapt the Tigrinya rhythm, which is a very special rhythm because I don't know, do you have musical background, Mike?
I have quite a musical background in various. I've been broadcasting since 1982, but this is very unique, Tigrinya, and I've actually never heard of this until you brought it up now. So what makes this different from other forms of music?
Yeah, so I what I wanted to say is that so in a lot of African music is based over a 6/8 time signature. So you should know that, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners probably know that. I assume a lot of them have musical backgrounds as well. So a lot of the music is driven by different variations of a 6/8 pattern, or 3/4 if you'd like. What's unique about Tigrinya music, which blew my mind when I listened to it first and got exposed to it actually in Tel Aviv, was that it's a kind of rhythm that it's somewhere, it's like an ambiguous rhythm which is between 5/8 and 6/8. Mm-hmm. So when all the band plays, it sounds like kind of a 6/8 rhythm. But if you just listen to the drum groove, to the drum beat, it sounds like the drum beat is on a 5/8 pattern. So that's what is most exciting for me rhythmically when I listen to this music, is this kind of like ambiguous perception of the rhythm. Like you don't know how to define it. It's something in between. And the greatest challenge was to try and adapt that to a jazz band, to try and take that rhythm that is played by particular instruments and in a very particular tempo, and try to translate that into a different band and people who have different musical backgrounds.
Mm-hmm. That made me think of the Dave Brubeck Quartet. When I heard Take 5, they did it in 5/4. That sounds a unique challenge, just like what you guys were doing. Dave Brubeck just took it to the next level. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, so you see, even Dave Brubeck's music, like Take 5, for example, it's very clearly that it's in a 5/4 time signature, and what's so like confusing about the rhythm of Tigrinya music is that you can't really define whether it's 6 or 5. Like at least with Take 5, I know that it's 5, and if you ask Dave Brubeck what's the time signature of Take 5, he would say it's 5/8. But when I ask a few musicians about Tigrinya music, obviously not a lot of people have knowledge about it because it's for us in the West, it's a very obscure type of music. And the way Ethiopians or Eritreans think about this music is not in the same musical terms that we use to define music. So it's really hard to find a definition to it. So some musicians said, "Oh, it's 6/8, but it's laying back," and some people said, "No, it's 5/8, but it's forward." So it's like, this is what's exciting for me, the way the fact that it's not so easy to define. It's very ambiguous. It's a rhythm that kind of lays on a spectrum between 6/8 to 5/8.
And of course, maybe you can meet in the middle somewhere. We'll talk more about that another time. And where can we find Tigrinya Lullaby at?
So it will be released September 2nd on all streaming platforms, the same ones I mentioned before: Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, Deezer, just all of them, all the riches of streaming we have today. And there will also be a music video that will be released on the same day through YouTube. And yes, I hope you guys will go check it out, and I hope you guys will enjoy it, and hopefully it will also convince some people to go check out Tigrinya music, the original thing, and not my take on it.
We will do that. That's going to be our number one mission. Once again, Omer Ashano, jazz violinist here on the Mike Wagner Show. Just a few more minutes. You've been fantastic. Looking forward to having you again soon. And what else can we expect from you in 2020 and 2021 and beyond?
Well, in 2020, it seems like you can expect to see me at home, like we all are. But I hope to try and make the best out of this year, and mostly use it for creation. And using all the time that have right now to try and create more things and try and push more of the musical project that I wanted to push in the past. I have this project in concept called EMA Express, which is another project that is fully influenced by African music. And I hope to start kicking that off. Hopefully coming up with an album this year. And I mostly think about how can I build myself more as an artist, as a musician. How can I expand my repertoire and my resume during this time and create more? So when we're all out of social distancing and everyone are craving for music and live music and dancing and being close to each other, I hope to have enough content, enough musical content that I could start promoting and sharing and playing on stages and recording. And
that sounds great. We're looking forward to all that. And who do you consider biggest influence in your career, Omer?
Wow. Can I name two?
You sure can.
I would say, well, Jimi Hendrix for sure. Like I said before, he's definitely one of the most important figures that enticed me that encouraged me to improvise. In general, just improvise.
Uh-huh.
So that was a big the figure that was encouraged me to improvise. Now, my style on the violin, I guess, on how I play jazz violin is mostly influenced by a French jazz violinist called Didier Lockwood, which was very influenced by Stefan Grappelli, who you might know, who was one of the greatest jazz violinists. And Didier kind of took Grappelli's style and adapted it more into the more contemporary scene of jazz.
Okay.
And I think in terms of sound and my approach to sound on the violin and my approach to improvisation with the violin, I think Didier Lockwood could be considered my greatest influence.
That is fantastic. A lot of wealth right there. And what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
Be independent. Don't trust others to open doors for you, or don't rely on others to open doors for you. Not trust. Trust is important. It's so important to be suspicious and useful not to be innocent, but it's also important to be able to trust people, because there are a lot of people along the way that will help you. But also I think one of the most important things I've learned along the career, also being a jazz violinist, which is not the most common, definitely not an integral part of a jazz band. So I had to get used to the fact that people are probably not going to call me for a gig. You know, when someone is starting his jazz band, he's not thinking, oh, what violinist should I call? You know, it's usually what saxophone player or what piano player or what double bass player I should hire for this gig. So I had to create a lot of my own opportunities. And actually, I think it's one of the greatest gifts I got as a musician is to learn how to be my own boss and how to own my music and how to own my career. And I think especially in these days where the music industry is so democratized.
Or democratic, yeah. That's probably the word.
Yeah, but I mean, like even in the verb and in the term that this music has been, or like the music industry has been democratized. Like it became more democratic than it used to be in the past, in the reality of labels, of big labels, and we're diving deeper and deeper into the era of indies, and it's important that people realize that. and learn to adapt to this new world where we have to be jack of all trades, and we have to own our publishing and own our creation and own our distribution, and lead our own career, and that's important.
And that is the very most important. Once again, Omer Ashano, jazz violinist in the Mike Wagner Show. Omer, a big thank you for your time. You've been very fantastic. Looking forward to you soon. Once again, tell us about your upcoming projects. What's your website? How do people contact you? Where can people purchase or listen to your music?
So you can find me on all streaming platforms if you want to listen to my music. Follow me on Instagram. Like my page on Facebook. Through there, you will also have you will also be directed to my newsletter if you're interested in having a more personal communication with me. Please send me a message, to chat about anything. I like to chat, and if you have any questions about my music or about violin or about jazz violin or about the music industry, if you're interested in my opinion in any way, then please follow me on my socials and hit me up with a message. I'd love to hear from you.
Sounds great. Once again, Omer, a very big thank you for your time. You've been fantastic. Looking forward to having you again soon. Do us a favor. Keep us up to date. Love you have back on in 2020 and 2021 and beyond. You've been great.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you very much.
The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios. If you're looking to start or upgrade your online presence, visit www.sonicwebstudios.com for all of your online needs. Sonic Web Studios specializes in custom web design, app development, social networking, search engine optimization, domain registration, email marketing, online stores, and more. Since our birth, we have been designing and developing immaculate websites and providing web solutions which are a cut above the rest. As a leading web designing enterprise, we have a team of extremely talented web designers who are well-focused and have the experience of working on multiple web developing platforms such as PHP, Magento, custom WordPress, and more. Sonic Web Studios has been helping businesses of all kinds, whether big, small, established, or startup, impress their audiences with exemplary web solutions. We don't just create beautiful and functional websites. We give you a complete online solution with the main goal of enhancing your yearly revenues. We aim to give your business the online exposure and brand acknowledgement that will help you in achieving increased conversions leading to profitable sales. Call 1-800-303-3960 or visit us online at www.sonicwebstudios.com to get started today. Mention the Mike Wagner Show and get 20% off your project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level.
Thanks for listening to the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, Anchor FM, Radio Public, and themikewagnershow.com. Please support our program with your donations at themikewagnershow.com. Join us again next time for another great episode of The Mike Wagner Show.